Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all here. It's so exciting that we're actually back in council chambers. Really feels wonderful. So I would like to call our August 10th Committee of the Whole meeting to order. We have some councillors missing, Councillor Baylor and Councillor Bevan, as well as our Chief Financial Officer. With our agenda, are there any additions or deletions to add? All right, I'd like a motion that the agenda for the August 10th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented. Councillor Chouinard. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed. Adoption of the previous minutes. Were there any errors or omissions in these minutes when you peruse them? Okay, I would like a motion that the minutes of the July 13th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented. Thank you, Councillor Sorensen. Any discussion? All in favor? So we have a delegation tonight from the Edson Slow Pitch and Vision Park Revitalization. They're going to be online, so welcome Maggie and Lee Locks. We'll have Giles set you up here, and I think the procedure is going to be that you'll do the presentation first, please. We will be muted here, and then we'll ask you questions afterwards if that suits you. Maggie, are you fine with that?
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. So the floor is yours.
Sure, I'll just share my screen here. You guys can see that okay?
100%.
Okay. Oh. Okay, so I will say that we did sit in on the user group meeting that happened a couple weeks ago. And so we did get some good information from John and Guy about the revitalization. I think that there's still a few things that maybe we have some concerns about, some ideas and that we just wanted to bring forward so that we can all be kind of on the same page as to what Vision Park we would like to see it look like. So the current plan, when we're only talking about slow pitch, we're not talking about minor ball. So the current plan is to have 4 diamonds at 300 feet for slow pitch. The rest of the diamonds eventually will reach 275 feet for a total of 12 diamonds designated for slow pitch. Have a washroom facility, tournament central, and the hangar. That's kind of the overall plans of basically what has been proposed or what we have seen. So ideally, we would like to go with not just committing to a minimal of what different standards are. We would like to see it an optimal. With going to an optimal size of diamonds, number of diamonds, facility, then we have the opportunity to host different events like regionals, provincials, and or nationals, and not just going with the minimal of the requirements. So we can host all different levels of slow pitch with using 4 diamonds at 300 feet. We have the ability to become a premier facility in Western Canada, creating a place where players want to play, where they come from out of town, come from out of province, come from other parts of the country across Canada. And it also provides us with the ability to stimulate the local economy and promote tourism within the town. So I did talk to the 4 different main organizations, which are linked to slow pitch. And so the first one was Softball Canada. So they're a government regulating association. They recommend have at least 2 showcase diamonds at 300 feet, including full scoreboards and lights. 275-foot diamonds are the sizing for women's slow pitch, and then the 300 feet is for the mixed and men's slow pitch. They do say that a quad, so 4 of the 300-foot diamonds would be ideal. So that's Softball Canada. So Softball Alberta, they would like to see 4 diamonds at 300 feet with lights on the diamonds. The park is complete with a washroom and a concession facility. If we were to only have 2 diamonds at 300 feet, we'd be able to host 10 teams for a Softball Alberta provincials or event. They say the minimum is 275 feet for each diamond, but this really isn't ideal. Slow Pitch National. So Slow Pitch National is the largest adult slow pitch association in Canada. It is the one which our league is associated with. And so they suggest the quad of 300 feet diamonds, including 2 with lights and having ball catchers on the backstop. So that's just to prevent the balls from going over backwards. 10 to 12 foot fencing around the back of the diamond. So that's on the far outfield side. And with fencing covering the full fronts of the dugouts. So they suggest nothing smaller than 275 feet. And their idea is that we could regularly host regionals, provincials, nationals, including having teams from all across Canada in all different divisions if we had those 4 diamonds of 300 feet and other diamonds that were at least 275. They also would like to see camping on site, which we do have the room for that. And they also would like a concession and washroom set up. So the other governing body, which we talked to, which is NSA Canada, so National Slow Pitch Association of Canada. So they recommend as many diamonds as possible at 300 feet. And they say anything under that is getting too short for a competitive slow pitch. There's kind of a balance between competitive and recreation, but really that 300 feet is kind of the goal for most of these associations. So they'd like a concession and washrooms. The quad of 300 foot diamonds would be good to host some bigger events. And they also had the idea, even though it's not slow pitch, but they did say you could host things like girls fastball because you don't need mounted diamonds if you have those designated 4 diamonds of 300 feet. So other things to consider when we're talking about the revitalization project of the park. There is the opportunity to create advertising packages of various amounts. I know they have them like at the arena. We've talked about them for curling, that sort of thing, to sponsor different fields, parts of the facility. The one thing, or the two things kind of concerning on the blueprint right now are the placement of parking lots. The current parking lot placement is that they're at the end of a diamond or at the side of a diamond. And so they are within the range of home run balls or foul balls. And so people are not going to be inclined to park there, or they're going to get hit with a ball. The other thing on the current blueprint is the placement of the playground. It's so the blueprint that we have seen is that it is right at the end of one of the diamonds. And that definitely is a liability for having kids play in the playground while games are on. So a couple examples, Red Deer has a completely fenced in playground. So the fence goes all the way over the top of the playground. So any balls which may come over the sides of the diamonds would not injure any of the kids because they would hit the fence and roll down. The other idea is Fort Saskatchewan has a playground within their facility where all of the diamonds are facing away from the playground. So they don't get foul balls, they don't get home run balls going into the playground. They're all facing the opposite way of where the playground is. So stimulating the economy. So definitely if we could get a great park going, we have the opportunity to host various tournaments along with league. So an example is hosting a 24-team tournament where at least 8 teams come from out of town. And you say each team has 10 to 15 players. So that's hotels, groceries, fuel, restaurants, liquor stores, volunteer groups, etc., all which could be utilized. So even though we won't likely return to Kinsman-sized tournaments, I mean, I haven't heard of many in the last couple of years that have been that size. We can still get lots of different tournaments and sizes, different calibers of ball, which will add revenue back into the town and local businesses. So slow pitch has changed over the years. There's still a lot of recreational teams and events. We still have a lot of recreational teams within our league. However, there are more and more competitive teams and events as well. So I think we need to find a balance between going with appeasing the recreational teams and the competitive teams so that we can get everyone together enjoying the sport in one place. So these are kind of the ideal plans. Understandably, we maybe can't get some of them into our park, just based on the way the sloping is of the side of the hill and stuff. So the idea is to have a quad, which is 4 diamonds kind of back to back, the way that the middle 4 or the bottom 4 diamonds currently are, which we probably cannot do at Vision Park right now. As John said, is like the slopage of the hills and the drainage. We probably wouldn't be able to do that. That we'd have light stands on the showcase diamonds, so games can be held under the lights, lighted scoreboards, so improved fencing, which I know we're working on at the moment. So the fencing really should reach the top of the dugouts just for safety. And then 8 to 12 foot around the backside, the outfield of the diamonds. And having the fence poles on the outsides of the fence, not on the inside of the diamond. Improve drainage to the fields and facility, which we're working on as well. I know that they've had the contractors in and done a great job with the road and that sort of thing. Camping on site. A lot of these associations like to have kind of not private camping, but private camping where people aren't mixed in, say at the Lions Hall. You don't have a team of slow pitch players camping in with a bunch of families. They can kind of be out in the park all together. And then a concession and washroom facility. So we really want to see the park revitalization go for the optimal and the ideal, not just the minimal of what these associations like to see. So this is an example of a tournament that just happened in Leduc over August long weekend. So they had 64 different teams and they had different levels and different genders essentially. So they had men's competitive, they had women's competitive, they had co-ed, they had recreational. So they were able to get 64 teams. Now, the park in Leduc only has 7 diamonds. So they actually had to go elsewhere outside of Leduc and use a couple of diamonds in Nisku as well, and a couple of diamonds within Leduc at a different facility. So they used 12 diamonds in total in order to get all of these games going. So it'd be a great opportunity for Edson to be able to have 12 diamonds and host something like this where you have different levels of competition, but you still are able to host a fairly large tournament. So this is an example of, this is the premier diamond in Leduc. So as you can see, they do have a scoreboard at the end. They have light towers. They actually have extended the fence on the one side because they were finding that the 300-foot fence actually wasn't big enough. And so they were getting too many home run balls. So these are just a few pictures of the diamond there. This is their premier diamond. So this is an example of the dugouts in Leduc. I know we had talked in our user group meeting about different styles of dugout. This dugout is completely tin. There's no cinder blocks. There's no chain link. There's no wood, anything like that. It's completely tin or metal, aluminum, whatever it is. The one thing they do have though is they don't have that fence that goes all the way up to the top. So there is a safety hazard of having balls or bats come through the dugout, through the fence into the dugout. This is an example of the competitive men's championship game. So this was played on Sunday at 9 o'clock at night. And as you can see, the whole length of each side of the diamond is filled. The grandstands are full. And if you were to span around to the outfield even had people around the ends of the diamonds as well. So it does give you the opportunity to host something like this and bring people in who aren't even playing slow pitch to watch and just bring extra people to town. So we do have a few questions that probably can't all be answered tonight, but just questions to ponder. So when the negotiations were happening with Trans Mountain, was the cost of revamping each of the ball diamonds which were removed considered? And is it public knowledge as to how much money was received from Trans Mountain? So was any of the material from the diamonds which were demolished kept to be reused? I know that there is a few piles of shale that were kept. Was there any of the fencing that could be salvageable? Any of the dugouts, like the plywood, the tin from the roofs, that sort of thing? Have there been any grants looked at for increasing funding or capital for the revamp project, especially with the combined use with minor ball? That does definitely open a lot of doors for different grants that we could look into for helping with the budget for it. Has the county been approached to help with the revitalization project? Because they do have a lot of players, especially within our league, that come from the county as well. What is the purpose of the hangar now? So the hangar used to be the place when Kinsman had their big tournament. It was kind of the go-to place, the hangout place. They had the bands in there, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's kind of big, cumbersome, probably not really needed. Is there a need to keep it, revamp it, that sort of thing? What is the goal of the Vision Park revitalization? So for slow pitch, is it geared toward league play? Is it geared toward tournaments? Is it geared towards a combination? I think if it's geared towards league play, the plans that we have are great. They would suit us perfectly well for league. If it's geared towards tournaments, there's probably a little bit of consideration into that revitalization plan to be made. Has anyone from the town reached out to other facilities to find out what makes them successful in being able to host various leagues and tournaments of different levels? And what is the overall timeline for the completion of the project? I know that it's in 3 phases, but we haven't really heard a clear kind of year 1, year 2, year 3 sort of thing. So just wondering about that as well. So these are the 5 people who I had talked to from the different organizations. Very easy to get a hold of, very informative, very easy to talk to and work through all these questions with as well. If anyone is wanting any of their information, I'd be very happy to share it. I just have a couple of pictures of the fencing, which is being done on Diamond 19, that I just wanted to bring attention to when we talk about that there's kind of some tweaks to the plan that we might need to work on. So this is the fencing, the new fencing on Diamond 19. So as you can see on the top of the bar, these chain links are sticking over. And so here it's maybe not as concerning, but when you have that across the sides of the diamond, you have people running, it's easy for them to get caught up on that. So this is the dugout. As you can see, the fence doesn't quite go up to the top of the dugout. So there is still a hazard for balls or bats to come flying through there. This is the sideline of the diamond. So the fence poles are on the inside of the fence, which doesn't give it very good structure. And it also is a safety hazard. If a ball was to hit the post, it could ricochet anywhere really. So the ideal is that those posts would be on the outside of the fence and the fence would be on the inside of the diamond. And this is just to show that gap at the top of the dugout again, that it would be ideal if we could raise the fence and close that gap off. And that's it for our presentation.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Maggie. I really appreciate all the work you went in to present this. Now, I will ask council if they have questions. As far as answering these questions, we'll wait until council gets a chance to ask some questions. And I will address the first question about Trans Mountain. We do know what we got paid as a council, but it is not public knowledge because that impedes Trans Mountain's ability to negotiate with other people for the same rights. So it isn't public knowledge and probably will never be public knowledge. All right, but we are aware of that. All right, any other questions now from council members? Yes, Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, through the chair to Maggie. Sorry, I missed who you are representing. I didn't.
So Lee and I aren't formally representing our slow pitch league. We just are vested participants in slow pitch and have played here for quite a long time. That we wanted to see it done well. And so we just had some suggestions and some things to bring up.
Yes, Councillor Schneider.
Hi, yes, thank you for your actual presentation. I did appreciate that. Just a question on the 300-foot diamonds, and I know slow pitch has changed over the year, but I believe we are looking into it for the capability of putting in 4 300-foot diamonds. Right now, presently, I believe there was only one, the main premier, that was 300, the other were 275. So we can hear what you're saying, but I mean, we have staff that are actually looking into this, and it's a matter of, because you brought up drainage problems and stuff, and because of the layout of the land, that may or may not be a very economical reason to try to put in 3 or 4 300-foot diamonds. So just my
Yeah, and we did sit in on the user group meeting, and in the final plans, there is 4 300-foot diamonds that are proposed as well. So it's great to see that. We just don't want to short ourselves on the other diamonds as well, right?
Okay, and that was my only concern on that. If we do build them, we could short ourselves. So thank you.
Councillor Curry.
Thank you. Through the chair, thanks for the presentation, Maggie. I do have a question for you. As you can imagine, not all taxpayers are really excited about the money we are spending out there because it's for a very specific use. So what is your user group or the users of the facility? What fundraising are you guys willing to commit to and volunteer hours to help support this?
Yeah, I mean, our league is fairly strong. Even this year in COVID times, we have done a league of only two months, so 8 weeks, and we have 24 teams. So coming up next year, I mean, our usual league is up to 40
to 60.
Yeah, anywhere from 40 to 60 teams each year, depending on. So I have taken over the role of the president for this year. I'm not sure if it'll stay for next year or not, but definitely I would be more than willing to put in some fundraising and stuff. We have talked about the possibility of incorporating as a society in order to get on to hosting casinos through ADLC and that sort of thing to help with fundraising and that too.
Thank you, because I know for me, I would like to see some financial capital investment from the user groups, because we are investing a lot from the municipality, and it's a very specific user group. Thank you.
Mayor Zahara.
Thank you for your presentation, Maggie, and having been out there seeing slow pitch, it's great to see so many people out this summer enjoying the diamonds. I'm like Councillor Curry, I certainly would like to see some help from slow pitch teams in regards to some of these upgrades. I do think that lighting is important. Having been to diamonds with minor ball, having kids play late at night, those lights are excellent, and the scoreboards as well. But we have to also balance all the other priorities that we have as a municipality. So I see that as a way to partner with your organization and hopefully maybe do some of these further enhancements. And I do share your concerns about the fencing and the safety aspect with the fencing. So as we go into further discussions later on this meeting, I'm sure we'll be chatting with administration on that and seeing what we can do to rectify that. But thanks for the information. In regards to the Yellowhead County question, it is a part of our intermunicipal government framework that we negotiate a cost sharing agreement with Vision Park. We just have not had the opportunity to do so with what's been going on with COVID. We do recognize that Vision Park is highly used by those that live in the county, but it's currently not part of our cost share agreement. So that'll be a future negotiation with our partners at Yellowhead County to see what we can do. Obviously, they also have various financial pressures right now. So appreciate the presentation.
Yes, Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, through the chair to Maggie. I share the mayor's appreciation for you raising your safety concerns. That very much hit home with me, and I made the notes on your safety concerns, and I'll be making sure that, well, I'll be definitely advocating to make sure that those are are dealt with. Which in my opinion, we can't skimp on dealing with safety out there. So, and I've always been an advocate to make sure that this park was ready for, at minimum provincial level tournaments. So I appreciate your concerns and thank you for your time today.
Any other questions? All right, Meg, just to sum it up, later on in this meeting, we're having a presentation on the master plan for Vision Park. We thank you for bringing all these things to our attention. As far as these questions go, they're great questions and they all need to be answered. And we will task administration to answer them. But I think it's only fair that we listen to the plan first. We are also planning to go into strategic planning as a council at the end of this month. And many of these questions would be discussed there, but you will get an answer on these questions. Are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, sounds good. I think we just wanted to see that, like, when the revitalization is going on and happening, that we're not doing things twice, or, like, we're spending our money wisely and doing it right the first time, instead of, for example, like that fencing now, it's pretty well done and properly. I mean, it's still usable, but the safety part of it now, to move all the chain link to the inside, we're spending extra money, sort of thing. So just getting all kind of together on what needs to be done and doing it properly the first time.
We really appreciate the input from an active user. I'm no slow pitch player, so I really appreciate this, that you pointed out what we need. And I know you are very active out there. So thank you for the presentation, and you will get an answer to these questions, but just not this evening.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll go on to our next item on the agenda, which is on infrastructure and planning. It's on bylaw number 2261, adding retail establishments to the C2 LUBA. Julia Darling, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I have a presentation for you, so I'm just going to share my screen. Just hoping I do it right. Sure, that's not the right one. Sorry, guys. Stop sharing. I swear I clicked on the right one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then I clicked this button. Oh,
Nice.
thank you. Normally when I do this, I have several screens in front of me and it's not
New concept, isn't it?
So it's been a few months. So I prepared a presentation tonight for the land use bylaw textual amendment, number 2261. So here's just some background on it. Recently, administration received an application applying for an amendment to the land use bylaw number 2070 to add retail establishment to the C2 service commercial district to facilitate the development of a new retail store on a property currently zoned C2 service commercial where other retail business is being carried out. After administration's review of the land use bylaw, specifically section 127, the C2 service commercial district, retail establishment is not listed as a permitted or discretionary use in the district, and it is clearly presented in the preamble as the intent of that district. Therefore, administration proposes retail establishment be added as a permitted use to section 127, C2 service commercial land use. This is just a visual for you guys to see that there's 173 properties zoned C2 service commercial, and this is where they're located. So just in conclusion, the proposed amendment fits the intended purpose of the C2 land use district and intends to facilitate diverse and strong economic opportunities and potentially increase business opportunities in the C2 service commercial land use district. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mayor Zahara.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through to Ms. Starling. Thanks for your presentation. Just a question. I'm a little surprised that based on what is at that location already, it's not already zoned for retail commercial. Is there a reason for that?
So the original property in question is covered under a different section of C2. It's covered under home improvement. That's how that business was originally approved.
Any other questions from councillors? Yes, Councillor Sarson.
Thank you, through the chair, to administration. When I first read this, I thought it just makes no sense not to have retail establishments in C2, but now I'm starting to wonder if we add it to C2, does that basically make C1 and C2 the exact same thing?
Through the chair to Councillor Swanson. So we can add it as a separate item, so it's not a permitted use. We could add it as a discretionary item, or we could also add it as a discretionary item that retail establishment must be the accessory use to a primary use listed, or permitted use listed, sorry. Could be added that way. So.
Any other input? Yes, Councillor Gertie.
Through the chair, I don't have a question. I'm in support of this. I think this just goes back to what we've been talking about for a long time. How much we need a new land use bylaw, and this is just it. And I think when you talk to the C1, C2, I think in best practice right now, the less of any areas, division, separation we have, the better it is. That is best practice in communities. And I don't think those would be differentiated in a best practice bylaw that we're hoping to move to. So I'm comfortable with this moving to retail, looking at what the other permitted and discretionary is, and we should support.
Any other? Yes, Councillor Shannon.
Yes, I just have to virtually echo what we're hearing in the room. It makes too much sense where the location is to change it. And for some time we have been upgrading, so I look at this as some housekeeping in a matter of speaking. So
Yes, Councillor Swanson.
Through the chair to council, I would recommend that we put this as a discretionary use for the time being, because we are expecting a land use revision hopefully very soon. We've all been waiting it for 4 years, so hopefully it is soon. And the discretionary use would give administration the ability to allow this particular case, but it wouldn't, like the whole point of land use bylaw is to concentrate retail space downtown. And my just fear is that if we open this up, we're gonna sprawl out the retail areas down the highway, and that's not necessarily what we want. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Shannon.
I would have to disagree with you. Our whole objective is we can sprawl out all of Second Avenue into retail, hooray for us. Our purpose is to have more businesses, and our Main Street is Main Street, but truthfully, to me, Second and Fourth are our new Main Street. So I would encourage, if this makes others go, let's hurry up and do it. Look forward to have more retail on Second Avenue.
Yes, Councillor Gertie.
Through the chair to Ms. Starling, I guess going to Councillor Soren's question. When you're seeing, we know that bylaw or the what am I trying to say? Land use bylaw is not the rewrite is not happening overnight. Just making sure that we're not setting precedents to things coming forward. Would it be better, in your opinion, for it to be set as a discretionary for this situation? Do we set anything by saying it's retail for this one, or can we for this one discretionary, knowing that is going to be happening, just not wanting to put ourselves in a situation where we have to approve all the future?
I might actually call Carrie for that question. That's,
Sorry. I saw her head popping.
So at this point, the general purpose of the district
is intended to provide for retail and service commercial outlets. So it's very difficult for me under council's bylaw to say that it doesn't meet the intent of the district,
That's fair.
which is why we're coming forward with the recommendation as a permitted use. Putting it in as discretionary wouldn't necessarily hinder any application. It still would allow for any of those 173 properties to make an application for that use. And it would still go through all the same reviews, I guess, all the same regulations. And the only difference is if there's something that needs to be varied or that they don't meet exactly, it would bump it over to discretionary. But if they did meet every single thing in the bylaw exactly, it's treated as a right. The likelihood of us and the actual cases where we see larger applications come forward that do meet every single regulation in terms of lighting, landscaping, parking, access, buildings is very rare. There's typically always a variance associated, which would kind of kick it over into that discretionary or permitted with variances, which is treated very much like a discretionary application.
Thank you. Can I follow up?
Yes,
Then I would be in support, as it's been written, recommendation to add in the retail, knowing the general purpose of the district and knowing that'd be a hard one if it came to a appeal process to go against, knowing that it specifically says that in the purpose.
any other input from council? Yes,
Yes, through the chair, I just, I'm in full support, anything we can do to lessen the burden, make this simpler for us, so. Good with it.
any other input? I think the simpler the better, and the quicker we get this finished property, that's going to solve many problems for us, so thank you. Do you feel you have enough information?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll have a presentation on West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority by Mitch Ham, our General Manager of Infrastructure and Planning.
Madam Chair, I'm going to declare conflict.
Oh, thank you, Councilor Chenard.
Good evening, Council. The report before you outlines and summarizes the governance and administrative plan proposed by Northview Management Consulting, Inc. for the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority. The RFR highlights the objectives, recommendations, and mandates of the attached Morview report and outlines the potential pros and cons of the proposed governance structure. Councilor Wilkinson and Councilor Sorensen are the current members of the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority and can also speak to the proposal, as well as Myron Moore, who's online with us from Morview Management Consulting, Inc. is in attendance. So, you have any questions?
Good evening, Myron. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. I'm pleased to join you guys tonight.
Thank you for coming and explaining this clearly to everyone so we know what we are going to do moving forward. Do we have any questions, Council? I'm sure you've had a chance to review the report. Yes, Mayor Zahara?
So thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to give kudos to the consultant and the Regional Waste Management Authority for their work on this. This has been an ongoing struggle for as long as I can remember. When I was first elected to Edson Council back in 2007, there were problems, and they still continue today. So I was very pleased to see the work that's gone into this. And I think that the report here has been very thorough. It has been unbiased, and I think we have a plan moving forward that I certainly support. There's going to be some positives and negatives associated with this. There's going to be some hurdles to overcome as we go through. But at the end of the day, this is about ensuring that we are doing everything we can to have a good governance structure, that we are dealing with waste management in a way that is hopefully diverting as much waste as possible from not just our landfill, but from the region. And whenever we can work regionally and sing from the same song sheet, I think it's a positive. And I think that's one of our struggles, as you see here in the report. Edson waste diversion is so much higher than some of our neighboring municipalities, and there's various reasons for that. But if we can work together and collaborate and move forward in a way that allows us to work as a region, I think we will be better off in the long run. There is going to be some costs associated with this, but I think the final outcome in the long term will actually save us money. So I would be very pleased to support this moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Curry?
Through the chair, I just question to the reps, Councillor Sorensen, Councillor Wilkinson, just on the conversation around the table when this was presented to the group and how our fellow municipalities took to it.
Well, I know Yellowhead County have passed in principle that they support this.
Through the chair, Hinton and Jasper are said they were in support. I'm not sure if this has gone to their vote yet. Every community, I believe, looks at this with pros and cons, like the mayor was saying. In order to move to a regional approach, to a truly regional approach, we have to give up some control, but we benefit from a regional approach to waste management and recycling. So I'm in full support of it. I'm really excited. I believe the current authority is ineffective and struggling right now. So I believe that a change in direction, a change in strategy is needed. And I also appreciate the consultant's report and plan. I think it is well thought out, and they're around to help us guide us through this process. So the sooner we do it, in my opinion, the better.
Yes, our CAO.
Deputy Mayor Wilkinson, I would echo the same sentiments in the room already that I've mentioned with regards to the other communities involved with the regional CAO group, with Jasper, Hinton, Edson, and Yellowhead County. The same discussion is just as far as the governance level and just making sure that there's of course areas to clarify, but in principle, this is a very solid plan moving forward. And I think that, I know Jasper as well has brought this to committee and I believe has passed, and Yellowhead County as well. So I'm just not sure on Hinton. Myron might be able to advise me if Hinton also passed, but very positively received from each of the communities from the administrative standpoint and setting this forward.
Myron, do you know about Hinton yet, or have they brought it forward?
They have, I think there's been a delay in their meeting, unfortunately. So I know Bernie was looking into that to see what was what might be the issue, but Jasper and Yellowhead, yes, confirmed. They've supported this in previous meetings already. I believe though, Hinton, the two representatives who sat on the authority from Hinton supported this motion or supported this direction as well.
Councillor Curry?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just would say I am definitely in full support of this, and thank you to the consultants. Thank you to our committee members. I know this has been a long time coming. This is really exciting. As a community, one thing I've been really proud of us is our waste diversion and how successfully our community bought into that, and how much I think all of us were shocked when we saw how much our tonnage of waste diversion is. And I think it is exciting for the region that we could get to a place where we're seeing that across the region. So super excited about that. So thank you to the consultants, and thank you for the committee that worked hard on this.
I guess I'll speak now. I just couldn't be happier that we can approve this in principle. I don't think really in this world there's going to be much place for people who want to be standalone on all the different projects. Regionalization has to be the best as far as waste diversion goes. It may not be as cost effective to start, but as you say, Mayor Zahara, I do believe in time it will be cost effective for all of us. And you're right, Councillor Sorensen, we are going to give things up in order to do this. But I guess that's the same in a family. You give up something so that everybody gets along. I think this is absolutely a wonderful initiative, and it can only grow. I just read where Fort Saskatchewan are going to start recycling styrofoam. So I'm like, okay, let's go. We'd have enough regionally, we'd have enough mattresses. There's a whole bunch of things that can cause employment and repurpose things. And that's what we really have to do. We cannot continue just producing more and more landfills. So thank you, Myron, too. I think we were very fortunate in getting your company to be our consultant. You were able to move us forward because we all do have diverse views on that committee for sure, but we were able to come together on a solution. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And thank you for your presentation, Mitch.
I thank you very much. And just for everyone else's perspective, yeah, we did the project through a few different working sessions with the board. And so we actually put the board to work. So it's, I can't, you know, this is really more of an output of the board's requirements and vision. And really, you know, I was happy to work with them as opposed to, you know, this was a genesis of the community coming together primarily. So I was just more of the writer and the facilitator, but and I must give a lot of credit to the board members from across the region who really participated very well in these working sessions. So thank you in return.
Thank you, Myron. And I think we'd be remiss to not mention Bernie Kreiner. I think he really kept all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed. Mayor Zaharon?
Yeah, just through the chair to Myron, just to clarify, this still has to come back to council next week, but
Yes, for a vote.
For a vote to formally ratify it, but I think you hear around the room that there's general support, so.
Okay, thank you very much then. You have enough to just bring it to council? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, corporate services now. We're going to have citizens budget engagement results. Oh, sorry, thank you for getting me on. You're that new Sarah. I guess you have to be,
temporary.
not a jack
Don't
of all
ask me
trades, a
anything.
Christina of all trades.
Sarah had your job for a while, so.
Right, vice
Totally
versa.
fair,
Yeah.
right? Thank you very much. So I have the pleasure of presenting the citizen budget engagement results this evening on behalf of the Corporate Services Department. So I'm just going to share my screen before I forget here. Thank you. So the information was included within the package, and that was the full responses that was received. So we do have a presentation that just brings the highlights to that. So the engagement tool ran from June 23rd to July 26th, a total of 259 visitors and 114 responses. So last year there was only 85, so a positive uptake. So I think that's always good whenever we see more interaction on our surveys. So each area asked, would you like to see higher, lower, or the same level of services for whichever area we were speaking of? Participants were able to comment on each area and like or reply to each other's comments. So I understand that that was a new thing this year as far as being able to see the comments. So in some cases you saw little hearts, etc. So you saw that there was some additional people commenting on current information. The advertising occurred in the newspaper, Facebook posts, Facebook ads, and on the radio, and an insert was included in all the July utility bills. So we'll start first with fire. I'm really going to just hit the high notes here. So out of 112 votes, the majority of 77 people voted for keeping the services the same. And so that's 68.8%. Community enforcement, again, 109 voters voted, and 45 of the voters to keep the current service level the same, given 41.3%. Rcmp services, 106 voters, so 55, again, the majority voted to keep the services the same. So protective services, the overall summary of the comments, there were lots of comments for and against combining town and county fire departments, and also some information with regards to proactive and preventative policing and bylaw enforcement. Some focus on more bylaw tickets being handed out and less photo radar. So that was the summary of that. So FCSS, as you can see, there were 101 voters and 43 voted to keep it the same. So again, that 42.6 in that middle range there. Parks, a total of 104 votors. What I find really interesting is the different amount of voters on each question, just a matter of if they chose to respond. It was something I noted when I was preparing. 53 voters to keep the service level the same. So just over the 51%, or just at 51%. Community development, this is where we saw a decrease. So out of 97 voters, actually 43 out of the 101, or oops, I scooched 1 second. Out of the 97, my apologies, did decide or did vote to keep to reduce the service level. Repsol Place, out of 102 voters, 60 voted to keep the same, so a little bit higher here, where we're at 58.8%. Overall comments summarized: FCSS providing great services to the community, let organization or community organizations nonprofit run events instead of the town, keep the parks maintained, reduce mowing, move forward with the multi-use facility. And in other comments, no new facility was not required. The pool requires upgrades, more kid-friendly activities, and finally, the seasonal outdoor rink appears to be well received in the responses. Moving into roads and sidewalks and snow removal. So 49% and I voted to decrease or increase in this case. So just a little bit, it's a little bit different on that aspect as well. So we're looking at the focus that the community wishes us to go. Waste collection. Out of 98 voters, 56 voted to keep it the same. So that's again, that's a little higher over the 57% mark there. Landfill, out of 97 voters, 68. So overwhelming support to keep that the same. So the current service level that residents are receiving. So the overall summary for the infrastructure services comments: consider different methods of snow removal, increase road repairs, sewer system repairs, be proactive, enforce sidewalk snow removal, make extra green bins available for an additional fee, introduce curbside recycling, time intervals of bin collections, too much, not enough in some cases. And then green bins have been a great addition. Green bins are not used too much. Increase landfill fees and extend landfill hours. So the one note that I did want to, that I was remiss in noting at the beginning, was that the timing of sending this tool out was different than in past years. So previously it was used after council's deliberations for the budget, and in this case we sent it out prior to, and that will help to for council's discussion on budget. So a little bit different. I'm open for questions.
Any questions? Councillor Gray.
I don't know that I have a question. I'm happy that we did this beforehand. I think it really will help us in our strategic planning. I do think looking through the responses and answers that we got, that we do need to maybe look at the tool a little bit. There seemed to be a lot of people that had a little bit of struggles of accessing the tool, how to access it, and usage. So I think that would be helpful with uptake. I think if anything, looking through it in the full detail, every time there was a comment for something, the very next comment was the exact opposite. So I found that a little bit hard as a counselor, because it really did seem across the board that it was either 50% are happy, but the other 25% want complete opposites. So yeah, it would have been nice. I mean, I'm happy with that representation. We went, what did we have the first time we did it? 20, so it's a great uptake. But it would still be nice to get more uptake, because it is, yeah, that's what was presented to us really was like half want this, half want that. So, but thank you for presenting it. It's nice to have it, and I'm happy we have it before strategic planning.
Councillor Schumer.
Yes, that was I'm gonna echo what you're saying, partly it was, but I am pleased because the outcome went from 26 to 100. A lot of people were complaining that it was hard to get onto, but I mean, it worked. We're getting better results. What we could do now that maybe COVID is behind us is what we've done before, like where we have a trade show booth, the town has one. So that encourages more people to ask questions that would prefer paper and not like electronically. The other way looked at it, virtually, if you look at the score overall, people are not asking for drastic changes. When you look at the scores, like, you know, what the worst is, like they're 51% and it's 50%. And I agree that they're on either side of the spectrum. But we can be pleased going through it. People think that we're doing a fairly good job. So I guess we have to be pleased with that and tell people to keep punching in their iPads.
Any other comments, Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, just through the chair, just a general comment. I am pleased that the responses numbers are going up every year. That's encouraging, and hopefully someday we'll have 500 people doing this. I really like the format. If my memory serves me correctly, this is a new kind of format, the 10, 5, keep 5 and 10. That's kind of a new way to word the questions. And in my mind, it's very clear which way the respondent had to decide, and for us to review the results, it makes it quite clear where a respondent lands. Not necessarily the comments. The comments are all over the board and difficult sometimes, but I really like the numbers, and I think there are some trends here that are some tendencies that we can use. And especially now that we have it before budget deliberations and strategic planning, I think it will be useful. Thank you.
Mayor Zahara.
Thank you. I was equally pleased to see the increase. This is only our third year of using this tool, and over time it's used more and more. And I think it's a far more effective doing it this early. And I think that the comments are interesting, and I do think it does allow us to understand that there is general lack of knowledge among the public on some of our issues and some of the impacts. The photo radar one's always, that's one that pops out to me. Well, if you don't like photo radar, that means your taxes are going to increase. And I don't think people necessarily see that correlation or understand how that's going to impact the budgetary measures. So I'm not so sure I like people seeing other people's comments, because I see there's a little bit back and forth, and you kind of, get distracted by a certain issue. But overall, I think it's really good for us to receive this feedback as we're going through our budgetary process, and hopefully it'll be helpful moving into this fall.
Councillor Johnson.
Can I just make one more comment? I clued into something the mayor just said, that the comments really highlight what we need to communicate better to the public. And I completely agree. And perhaps we can review, maybe administration can review these comments the next year when they're doing the write-up on parks. They can look at these comments and say, the public kind of got off track last year in their comments, or we need to communicate some of these key items in the blurb right before the question. So yeah, I agree.
Any other comments, Councillor Curry?
Through the chair, just going to echo what you two had just said there. I found the comments was a good way to see what we maybe didn't communicate well. I know one comment in the infrastructure section, I was just trying to find it, was all about how we should invest time in doing an assessment of the town and all, and have a long range plan of what we were doing. And I kind of read it thinking, we did a really good job of that. So it just to me was a good thing of like, oh, hey, this is something we could put out. Like, I think even as not even talking budget, like people have made comments here that are things that we have done, and we have actually done them really well. So I think it would be a good time to say, hey, from the budget citizen, we had a comment about this. Did you know? Like, I think it's a good use of how we can actually, some of these are things that we have done that people were asking. So I think it would be a great thing to utilize it to highlight. You were looking for this and it was done.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wilkinson, to all council, I would agree. I think every opportunity that we have to gain information and we take it back and are able to utilize it in as far as enhancing our communication efforts. I think that that's one of those things where we have the information and it will be helpful in moving forward.
Yes, and thank you very much for presenting this, and really thanks very much to the citizens who took the time to fill this out. And I just hope that each year we can get more and more people involved in this. It is the chance to speak, and I'm so glad that it has chronologically worked out that we get it before the budget, because then we can look at these comments. And really, it was quite interesting reading them, because most of them you hear from citizens throughout. Like, and it is exactly some 50%, some not. Like, I'm shocked at this lack of children's activities. I live near the park, and there seems to be activities on there every day, you know. So I guess some people aren't using those. So again, communicating what we have is really very, very important. So thank you for that. And again, I'm very pleased that our numbers are going up. So hopefully every citizen does this one time. Thank you. All right, we'll have community and protective services, our vision park master plan. I imagine Guy Latour, our manager of parks and facility maintenance, will be presenting. Thank you, Guy.
Right. Thank you, council. Through the chair to council, I just have a very short introduction. How do I get back there? Not like that. Right, through the chair to council, I have a very short 2-slide presentation just to address where we're at with the current work being done and outline the guiding principles of the revitalization plan. I do want to stress, I'm calling it a revitalization plan. And we'll talk to that in a bit. So, share screen. So just a quick update, sorry. Currently where we're at, we've rebuilt the West Road and done a lot of drainage and grading work there. It's all complete. We're currently working on the fencing. 4 diamonds will get new backstops with overhangs and an infield and outfield fencing. No backfield fencing is being replaced on any diamonds for the purpose of we want to be able to extend those at some point to the distance we're talking about, 275. So we leave the current fences, back fences, they're not bad. And when we can extend them, then we put in new fences. So we're currently doing 19, 20, 13, and 9. All these diamonds backstops will have overhangs to stop the balls from being deflected. 3 diamonds are getting new backstops, 7, 11, and 14. And 3 diamonds are getting backstops just repaired, 8, 18, and 21. Currently also, we've just finished all the carpentry work. So the dugouts were repaired, the fronts lowered, and the exteriors painted. All the bleachers repaired and painted. All the picnic tables, including the hangers, were repaired and painted, and the outhouses were repaired and painted. I'm just going to take the opportunity real quick to also address the safety issues that were brought up. It's really hard to tell on their picture, but with our dugouts, the new fencing is 6 feet high. So there is just a little bit of a gap at the top, and we can mitigate that with an extra board or something to add some additional safety to make that happen. But there's no direct route into the dugouts anymore. It's like, quite an angle, and it's a very minimal safety issue. But we'll address that. We'll put a board across the top, as we wouldn't mess with the fencing, because you would have to get customized fencing to fit each one of those, which would be very challenging. We are putting capping on all the 4-foot ones. So when she was talking about the tops of the fencing there, all the 4-foot fencing is going to have capping on it. So that'll all be protected. And then we are currently just following the designs and the not recommendations, but from our consultant and our contractor on how to do the outfield fence. We'll immediately tomorrow morning have a talk with them, and maybe we'll flip the fence to the outside. It wouldn't be a hard thing, but we're just following what standard gets done. So guiding principles on the revitalization plan. So for us in parks and community development, this has been a revitalization plan and not a redevelopment plan from the start. And what does that mean? Well, it means we have reduced or limited resources to be able to do it. So we've been using as much as the old footprint as we can to reduce the cost. We're using funds available from Trans Mountain to rebuild the section that was affected. And I believe we've got an extremely good value for rebuilding from Trans Mountain. We talked about that in previous council meetings. I'm very pleased with what we have there. It's using funds currently allocated in the capital plan for rebuilding. Youth ball was a priority. We heard that from the surveys. And we were very much focused on ensuring that we meet the needs of our leagues. That was also very important to roll in one of the guiding principles. And then from there, we were doing our very best to be able to build diamonds that would be able to give us the opportunity to host tournaments. So the plan is looking at 2 to 4 300-foot diamonds. In the final plan, we currently have 1 300-foot diamond, and we have 2 that'll be built in the revitalization part of the Trans Mountain rebuild. And then if we want a 4th one, we have it in the plan that John's going to present. At some point, we really honestly only have literally 1 place that we can take another diamond and expand it to 300 without massive investment in redesigning and redeveloping the site. So before I turn it over to John, do you have any questions on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, there's
Sure. I just, having been out there and seeing all the work that's been done, I just want to give hats off to your department. I think it's such an improvement, and I look forward to the presentation here. I'm pleased to hear that you're taking some of those concerns back with some of the users and hopefully get them addressed.
Yeah, we can, like I said, I don't think there's any direct safety issues with the diamonds or with the dugouts. It's a 6-foot fence, but we can easily put a strip across the top just to make it 100% safety there, and there is cap going on.
Guy, if you don't mind, would you introduce John so that anyone listening will know who he is, please?
All right. John is from EDS, Environmental Design Solutions, and they were the consultant we hired to build our revitalization plan based on the guiding principles that I just gave you. They've been working with us from the start there. You might be familiar with EDS. They also did our Trails Master Plan. We're really excited. They've been a great partner for us and really being able to get us where we are right now. And and we've also engaged John and EDS to help us fulfill the rebuild of Trans Mountain. They will be working with us as a project manager to make sure that project comes to fruition. As you can understand, it's a massive project at that size to rebuild, and we needed some assistance to make sure it all comes together the way we want it. So I'll turn it over to John.
John, the floor is yours if you'd like to present to us.
Sounds great. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks, Guy, and thanks, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for the time to go through the master plan. We did meet with you about a year ago or less, just to give you an update of where we're at. Now that we have certainty of funds available and an action plan moving forward, we're pretty excited to announce and with your blessing, move forward with some construction this year. So I'm going to give you just a quick summary of the master plan itself. I understand the document's been circulated as well, but this presentation gives you a high overview of it. We also are going to show you some of the improvements we refer to as the ditching and the road works in phase 2 and 3. Talk a little bit about the phase 1 detailed design process that we've gone through and some of the sense of where we're at with some of the design features, and then talk about next steps. Project scope, Guy did allude to some of the objectives for the projects. So at the beginning of this, we did a needs assessment. We look at comparable communities, the number of lead users that we have. We made some assumptions of 10% or 25% growth of those over a short term. So we made some fairly calculated decisions on the number of diamonds that were required, both for hard mold as well for slow pitch. We did stakeholder engagement that I'll summarize. Some site investigations included everything from a very detailed site survey so we can understand the beast that we're working against with all of the grades, site servicing, what the availability is for sewer, water, and power, gas, and other amenities that may be needed. Geotechnical, we want to ensure the roads we're building, particularly anything paved, comes with good design parameters. And then the assessment, of course, of each of the fields. We went through and identified the site program, working with the user groups and administration, understand what the needs are, what some of the goals are. For example, are we looking to, as we talked about earlier, satisfy just league play, or are we aspiring to do nationals? And then, of course, there's the final report. Some of the challenges with the site, and I apologize for all the text here. The one that if you've been up there, you're familiar with is the site drainage, the ditching, some of the erosion that we've had, some of the areas even within fields that were retaining some water. So one of the first challenges is the steepness of the site, and then having poorly drained fields. There are some fields that 20 some years later have either settled or were never really graded properly from the start and have some accelerated problems. Erosion and sedimentation, obviously we're releasing sediment and causing erosion throughout the site, which was a maintenance nightmare for us. Some diamonds don't have nearby parking, so there's the thought of trying to accommodate more parking in certain areas. The disturbance from Trans Mountain, obviously very literal impact that affected a large area of the site. Large expanses of mowed grass. There's acres and acres of grass that is being mowed that over time may not necessarily need to be mowed. To overgeneralize, I'd say about a third of the site could probably be more naturalized and still have the site function well. Excess of diamonds for most uses, having 24 diamonds was just far exceeded the current needs. And then the orientation of some of the fields was less than ideal. Some of them having, for example, batters facing direct sunlight in the evening. During the process, we had 2 engagement meetings. Both included minor ball and mixed slow pitch. We also had a number of meetings with the client team and internal and administrative meetings. And then we did a public survey with 409 responses that supported the recommendations. These are recommendations that you've already seen. We've showed this to you, I believe, last October, and looking at the fact that generally people are fairly satisfied with the amenities, but the overall message was quality over quantity. So rather than doing 24 diamonds and doing a decent job, let's pare it down. Let's put our eggs into 16 baskets and do a better job of what we have. Some things that was mentioned, obviously the ability to camp on site doesn't exist now, but this plan does accommodate some of that. Accommodates areas that are going to be serviced for other things like washrooms and concessions, including the playground. So definitely bringing a lot forward that came from the discussions. Here is an example of one of the assessments of one of the fields that we did. So we went diamond by diamond, and basically as they were prioritized and ranked, we pick the best ones that we were going to try to salvage and work with if we could. So we came up with scoring criteria against everything from the backstop, the fencing condition, how it drains. Some of the bigger ticket items is the infields and how well they drain and whether or not they pose long-term problems. So here's an example, Diamond 22, that if you can see this picture, it's quite small, but basically has a small little constructed wetland in right field. Obviously, drainage problems and a challenge to work with. The first phase introduces diamonds up toward the top. So this is the redevelopment of 7 diamonds. In this program, we're introducing a improved roadway and parking area in this area, rebuilding diamonds number 17 and 16 back to generally their original orientation, but going to 275 feet. So that being the minimum that any rebuild is going to go. We're introducing hardball, and the difference between those is you can see in the infield, you can see the grass square of the infield, and that's a hardball diamond. The other difference is it's going to have a pitching mount. So something that for slow pitch, you would have to take out or you would be somewhat in the way. We have the playground here in the first phase as well, generally in this area. Looking at 300-foot fields, we've got the first one. This is a new premium slow pitch diamond. The current intention is to design it with having lights, scoreboard, PA system available as well. The other difference between it being premium is the fact we've got a warning track around the perimeter. So along the home run fences and then the side fences, a warning track of gravel. Bear in mind that shale is coming from southern Saskatchewan. That is the nearest source for us at the moment. So that said, it's an absolute premium for us to bring that in. We include 3 different levels of hardball, that being bantam, peewee, and mosquito, and then introducing batting cages into the first phase as well. In the second phase, we're starting to proceed southward from there. So that includes retrofitting diamonds number 18, 19, 20, and 21. So anything like, for example, diamond 19, the guy was speaking of, that is being refenced right now. The intention is once we come up with the funds for the grading and the final fencing work, extending this out, getting it to the proper geometry and getting the full 275 feet. The third phase is the construction of things within the core. This does come with a significant amount of grading to be able to achieve this. This is where we have the existing number 9, that is a 300-foot field. We also have diamond number 11, which is a new construction piece in phase 3. That brings us 4 slow pitch diamonds at 300 feet. Plus, if you removed, for example, for a major championship, you remove this pitcher's mound, you could use this bantam diamond as a 5th 300-foot field. Less than ideal just because of the grass infield, but nonetheless still works. Talking about some of the area improvements in phase 2 and 3, this is just a quick overview showing what the extent of the work was. We do have pipeline right-of-ways crossing through the south, north, and south, as well as within that phase 1 area that are impediments. So we have to be very careful with the grading that we put in place. So this shows the re-ditching, the reconstruction of the road, and this was since gravelled after this picture. So a remarkable difference, we think, from ability to get water off the site. With the detailed design and construction for phase 1, so just an overview, this is looking toward, this is the far northwest corner of the site. You can see the definitive line here of what Trans Mountain had affected, and as our stakeholder had pointed out, some of the shale was starting to be harvested. There is a few little pocket areas like this, for example, that still has shale in place, and we'd like to be able to harvest every pound that we possibly can, again, to save a lot of our costs. So the phase 1 area generally follows this alignment, and that includes everything that was affected within that corridor. Now, something to also consider, now that there's a pipe in the ground, the grades absolutely can't change. So one of our most significant impediments we have is not being able to change the ground of many, many acres on the site. So it makes the grading plan much more challenging. This is the general scope area within the phase 1 limits. So you can see it does include everything that was affected by Trans Mountain's construction, but also at the same time redeveloping some areas and some of these diamonds to accommodate some of the future hardball diamonds. So again, phase 1, this is what we intend on putting out to tender as soon as later this month for redevelopment and construction. Speaking of grading plans, just to give you a sense for those that can read these, the steepness of the slope is predicated by how tight these contours are. So where you see these contours are very tight, this is the absolute steepest we can put a lawnmower onto things. So you can appreciate how at the end of some fields, the steepness between things like roads and ball diamonds creates a significant amount of grading, but more importantly, the challenge of long-term maintenance. So getting grass to establish on the 3-to-1 and slope comes with some challenges. Just a quick overview of the grading. Some of these areas in red represents a cut of 3 to 4 meters. So, a 12, 15-foot cut in some of these locations. Areas of fill just to get these to more playable standards of up to 2 meters. We are introducing a conventional playground within the site, as was mentioned, as another showcase piece within the park. The detailed design, we did talk about the difference between a standard diamond and what we call the premium diamond. The premium diamond would have this warning track around the perimeter of the diamond itself. It has the higher fence all the way around the field and certainly in the outfield. It has a future connection, or if we have the funds, to put up a scoreboard and a full lighting system in. The premium fields would feature some safety features such as this skirting wall along the backstop and having rubber on the inside to protect back catchers and anybody running toward the fence. And certainly all fields, as Guy had mentioned, are going to be using these fence protective toppers. If we look at the guidelines, so there are a number of organizations, but let's say for hardball, for example, one organization will say a field can be between X and X. For a distance. We are going to the maximum distance in all cases for each of these levels. So we're not going with the bare minimum by any means. We're able to accommodate the preferred, which is the, as an example for Pee Wee, you could have it at up to anywhere from 200 to 225 feet. We're going to the maximum on each of those. As for the new, when we have all of the benches that we're going to be putting in, we can see we have full, in this case, full fencing right to the very top of the dugouts. These ones are cinder block. We're going to be tendering a combination of 3 different dugouts to see which fit within the budget and then working within that. So another example of this one that is fully chain linked, which is much more cost effective than just having a simple tin roof. As for next steps, we're looking for your authorization through the committee meeting today and then through your subsequent council meeting to authorize us to accept the master plan, authorize it, and allow us to go to phase 1 tendering, which can happen as soon as the end of August of this year. We would have a 30-day tender period and award only the items that are within the budget. So we do have a limited budget for this year, as Guy mentioned, between capital funds as well as what was acquired from Trans Mountain in the transaction. That would determine what actually gets built. We do have estimates of construction for the phases. However, because of the short-term tendering that we're going to be doing, we don't want to bias any of the bids, so we're not releasing any of that information. We do have a potential start of some of the work here in 2021, so it might be demolition and some limited grading, with the majority of the work in phase 1 that would take place in 2022. We do plan to continue to work with the local ball groups. So as construction starting to look at some of the details, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago to look at some of the details of the detailed drawings. So we certainly want to work with them moving forward. We're also available to them to assist with grant writing or any other pursuits that they have to try to find additional funds. If that happens within the window of that we're doing construction, we're certainly available as well to try to incorporate some of those budget items in. And there's my chat.
Very much, John, for your presentation. Really appreciate it. Questions, council? Yes, Mayor Zahara.
Sure, I have a bunch of questions, but I'll save
Go ahead.
time for other people to ask questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. I am so super excited about this revitalization. This has been a gem in our community and certainly needs some love and care and attention right now. I know that talking with people in the community who are not involved in ball, they don't understand actually how many people play the sport. So this is a huge user group in our community, but significant costs associated with this plan. My concern is we always want to ensure that we're trying to do things in a cost-effective manner. But when I look at things like the dugouts and chain link fence, all I see is future maintenance costs and what is that going to look like 5 to 10 years from now. So as we go through this process, I really hope that we don't necessarily just look at the cost, but also the long-term longevity of some of these buildings and what that will look like down the road. Chain link gets damaged easily, and I would hate for us to spend a whole bunch of money only having to do a reinvestment 5 years from now, where something like a cinder block or a tin building may have longer longevity. So that would be just my comments, and just a question in regards to what are you looking for in terms of timing for phase 2 and 3? Is that primarily based on budget availability, or and what would the cost be associated? Well, I guess you don't want to release that because of the tendering process.
Through the chair to council, phase 2 and 3 is tied to budget, and we will do as much as we can with the budget to implement phase 2 and 3 as we move forward. But once we got this plan done, we can also put much better costs to that final version of what phase 2 and 3 is going to cost. But right now, we've always taken the approach, we're working with our current budgeted funds that we have in the capital budget.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions, councillors? Yes, sorry, Councillor Chenard.
Hi, I'm the exact same way. I'm pleased that we're doing this. The only question I have is this plastic molding we're putting over chain link fence. I've used chain link and I'm questioning this. Is this going to be high maintenance? Is the wind going to get it? You know, people tend to hang on it because like a regular chain link where they're saying it's a safety concern, they are folded over. And a lot of times where people are saying the wire's high up, but it needs to be brought up high enough to fasten it to the rail to hold it in place. But I'm just wondering, this top rail, how durable is that? How well is that going to last?
Through the chair to Councillor Chenard, there will be, it is plastic, right? And it's going over the top. It'll be over the 4-foot sections where players can engage that level. I anticipate that stuff needing to be replaced every 4 to 5 years or potentially. It is plastic, but it's heavy duty conduit plastic, and but there will be some maintenance costs involved with that. I don't know the exact costs right now. I don't think it's overly expensive though, but I anticipate it need to be repaired and replaced quite regularly as it gets hit and run into and dealt. Yeah, just the reality.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Curran.
Thank you. I find this plan very detailed and easy to understand as a non-softball player, so I appreciate that. I know with, and I'm in support of moving forward with this phase 1. It is already in the capital budget and with our agreement that we have. So I'm excited for that. I know with the tendering process, we can't talk too openly about that budget for this, but for phase 2 and 3, I would like Edmund and John to be working with our user groups on their plan for doing some fundraising. I would like to, before moving into phase 2 and 3, John, thank you. That offer of helping them to write grants is very generous, so I appreciate that. I know that's a hard thing to do, but I would like to see with phase 2 and 3, that's in the budgets coming up. I would like to see some engagement with the user groups on fundraising and what they'll be putting in to support this capital cost for the next phasing.
Yes, Councillor Swanson.
Yeah, through the chair to council, really, my comments are, I'm really excited about this plan as well. I agree with Councillor Curry that going forward, we need all interested parties to be involved in the maintenance and operational costs of this park. It can't just be the town of Edson that's doing all the maintenance and bearing the full cost of maintenance. I was quite interested to hear John say that a third of this park could be returned to natural vegetation and doesn't need to be mowed. So I'm hoping, I know there's quite a bit of dirt work still to be done, but I'm hoping that administration has enough detail in this plan that they can just stop mowing certain areas. If we know they're going to be dug up and there's going to be earthworks in that area, or if in certain areas it just makes sense to let it to go to trees and to natural vegetation state, I would encourage that. It's not only going to save us money in mowing, it's going to improve drainage and water management in the area if we have better vegetation. So I would encourage that. And just summary again, I'm really excited about this. I think it is a gem in our community that's just been neglected for a number of years, and we have to bring it back up to an even better state than it was before, in my opinion. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with you, Councillor Sorensen. It has been a gem in our community, and there's no reason it can't be again, and even a brighter one. I again am not that familiar with it. I did go out one evening when children under 7 were playing ball, and it really was very heartening to see all these kids playing ball and all the parents out there. So I thought, oh, we're not spending our money incorrectly. There is a future here, because you sort of don't know what the usage is, but there definitely is a great need for this. So I am glad that we've stepped ahead and we're going to really have a wonderful facility. Now, on your future plans, when you said your last one, continue to work with the local ball groups, design details, etc. I think, to me, that's your most important next step. And again, I really appreciate it, Guy, that you are adapting and accommodating local groups and listening to their input. I think when users are in a spot, they sometimes can help people as well. So I really appreciate that for both of you in your design. And could we task you, please, Guy, to reply to those questions from the slow pitch group sometime before summer's out, if you could. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Mayor Zahara.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, just a couple questions. Part of this plan, are there going to be bleachers at every diamond? Is my first question. The second question is, and this was brought up in the presentation, is a playground in the most appropriate area of this park? And my third question is about the hangar and what the plan is for that facility, because it's certainly the first thing you see. It does need some TLC. What's the plan there, or do we require it anymore? I do know that when they have tournaments out there, they often use the hangar for things such as silent auctions and that sort of thing. So just any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so through the chair to the Mayor Sahara, you might have to remind me, there was a few of them there, but okay, so the hangar, we do intend on our next round of capital funding to include it in some additional repairs and upgrades to bring it up. It does need some TLC. As for its intention, it hasn't changed. It's the same, going to be the same usage as it has been in the past currently. What were the other questions?
Bleachers at every diamond.
Yes, okay. Through the chair to Mayor, we have for the new diamond or the new diamonds, we'll be purchasing, we'll be putting pads down, and we'll be putting your basic metal bleachers. For the premier diamond, we'll be doing a much larger set of bleachers for that. And what else?
Is a playground, do you think the
yes.
playground's in the best area for that?
My personal opinion, there is no really good place for the playground. If we move it to where Diamond 10 is, then they're out by the main road.
Yeah.
And in the other corner where the batting cage is, then they're not central and they're not near the main road. And then you have kids far away near Logging Road, basically, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
We fully understand the parking and the playground aren't ideal, but they're contextual to the site that we have. The parking lots, yeah, they're potentially could get hit by cars there. but we have no other location to put a parking lot there. So we're very understanding of those concerns, but contextually, as John pointed out, we have some major restraints with what our site is, what we can fit in there, what we can get in there. And that answered all of them?
Yeah, and I would agree too. We don't want the playground or that main road. There's lots of
Yeah.
traffic, and the logging trucks.
Yeah, and so one other thing I just want to make sure that there's clarification is in phase one, the Trans Mountain rebuild, the Premier Diamond will have lights, or we're trying to have it have lights. Again, it's all contextual to the tenders and the cost. We intend to have lights. We hope to have a scoreboard, but the second 300-foot one in phase one, very unlikely we would have lights and a scoreboard for the second 300-footer in phase one. So those are things that we can incorporate in much better budgets for phase 2 and 3, as we know exactly, because we'll know what exactly those costs are incurred, but very unlikely with the current budget, with the funding we got from Trans Mountain, that we would be able to get lights and a scoreboard on the second Premier Diamond as it is.
Mayor Tahara?
Yeah, through the guy on that. I certainly understand that. I'm just wondering if we can make sure that, you know, the space is there and the cabling and that sort of thing, to have it prepared so that if funding does become available or fundraising can occur, that maybe down the road in a year or two, we can look at doing something like that. I think to start out, as long as we have one, that hopefully you'll have that. Or, you know, maybe you need to come back to us to have that discussion, whether or not we feel that's a priority or not, but I just think we need to think forward looking, even if we can't afford it right now.
So through the chair to the mayor, in response, that's the exact plan that we've gone with, even for the Premier Diamond. If the funding isn't enough, we've still gone ahead and engaged an electrical engineer as part of the plan to design and make sure everything's in place for we could upgrade those in the future if we needed to.
Thank you. I think scoreboards and lights are an absolute excellent opportunity for people to donate. We can have their sponsorship you put to good use. And with all these people, there has to be somebody with enough money who wants to share it with the town, rather than having it on all the taxpayers. That would be just wonderful. So thank you for being forward thinking like that you have the space and the availability to do that. Any other questions here on this? No, then I guess, thank you, Mr. Latour.
Build it and they will come. Build it and they will come.
Build it and they will come, that's right. All right, now
Thank
we'll
you,
have.
John.
Thanks, John.
Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry, you're sitting up there. Now I'm Zoom, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your time and effort. Really appreciate it. And maybe there can be some like chicken wire put over top of the playground or something. You never know, right?
Let's not go there.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have the results of the new Rcmp collective bargaining agreement, and I believe Al Schramm, our GM of Community and Protective Services, is presenting.
Do we?
I'm more supporting the CAO on this. This is a team effort.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilkinson. So, you know, the report within the package does explain what we're faced with the situation, but I will provide a brief summary. So, during, you know, in 2017, there was legislation passed allowing the Rcmp to unionize and bargain collectively, and therefore that collective bargaining has ended, and they have determined they've ratified an agreement, and which it impacts all municipalities, and essentially the back pay is now the responsibility of the municipalities. So that being said, I did attend an AUMA seminar, which was very helpful in essence. I believe Councillor Deputy Mayor Wilkinson was also in attendance, and you may be able to speak to us. But essentially, at this moment in time, you know, the impact on the town of Edson does, you know, is 45 to
$645,000 per member, in which does equate to $645,000 for our municipality. One of the things that I do recall in the presentation from AUMA is that there was signaling of this previously, and some municipalities did put money aside, some didn't. Essentially it was kind of hard to know. We weren't at the table to have the discussions. Anyway, at any rate, they have signaled that even if we were to have the money, not to essentially submit our payment as quickly. So we're hoping to advocate for the municipalities not to be responsible for the payment of the retroactive pay, and to write a letter to the Minister of Public Safety Canada, as well as communicate to FCM that they must take an advocacy position that the federal government must be financially responsible for all RCMP contract retroactive costs. And finally, also to provide and also have key messages for us with our meetings with our MLAs and MPs. So for following this meeting for next the council meeting, we would be seeking council support for advocating towards these efforts to support the rest of efforts of hopefully the rest of municipalities in the province. I'm open for any questions you may have.
Any questions, councillors? Yes, Mayor Tahara. Sorry, I see him first.
Through to Deputy Mayor Wilkinson, just your perspective on the call with AUMA that you attended on the Monday.
Right, it was very interesting, and first off, I'd like to say that I really think that the RCMP do deserve this back pay, and they've had a union agreement. I would always have assumed that if an agreement was signed, it would be with the signees, which would be the federal government. It wouldn't be the municipalities. So I agree that we should lobby very, very effectively to the federal government to pay this. But I think it's come at a very unfortunate time when there's such a push on now to replace the RCMP. It makes it look like, oh, well, here's more money that we're spending on. And I think it's very important to pass the message out that this is now part and parcel of their contract. And even if we got some Alberta police force, there would also be contractual issues. So I think that's very important that citizens are aware of this rather than just thinking, how will this affect my taxes? And I hope that we can lobby effectively. And I think we need to do it to just anyone that will listen to us, that the federal government should pay that up, and then we'll go forward from there. We're in a contractual issue with them. Councillor Chenard.
Through the chair, to I believe one the CEO or yourself can answer it. Part of my question is the retroactive pay, is that for 1 year they want us to go back, or what's the total bill? 5?
Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Chenard, it is for the 4 years.
So they're wanting us, if I can do this, to pay 640,000 times 4?
Sorry, the total financial responsibility is 645,000.
But if it's going back 4 years, then our increase, so is our increase of this going to be 645,000 per year moving forward?
Catch up.
Okay, so just catch up. So our total bill, we have to pay retroactive, and I agree with the lobby, is 645,000. So what would our yearly increase be?
Deputy Mayor Wilkinson to Councillor Chenard. So there are some impacts as far as our annual increase coming forward. We don't have all of that information as far as yet. We have this current information with regards to the back pay at this moment, but we'll be bringing forward that information in the coming year's budget discussions.
Okay, yeah, because I kind of answered a lot of it. First I looked at it and I thought, okay, 640,000 in total. We have to pay an increase of 640,000. That's a huge increase to what we're paying now. So the total bill is 645,000. I believe the federal government's calling an election soon, so we have a chance to hammer them.
Exactly.
So I'm just looking, so now I fully understand. At first I looked at it, I thought, Jesus, that's how many million? So, okay, so we're looking 640, so an increase of probably, we'll get $150,000 per year if you do the math on 645. Okay, I'll wait for the information.
Let's work on this first and get that huge amount taken off. That would be great. Yes, Councillor Sorensen.
through the chair to administration, I'm just worried about lobbying before we know we've actually been told to pay. Have we been told to pay this money, or is it just kind of floating in limbo right now?
Deputy Mayor Wilkinson, through the chair to Councillor Wilkinson. We have not, to my understanding, we have not received our invoice yet, but it is forthcoming in September.
Yes, Councillor Curtin?
Sorry, still formulating my thoughts on this a little bit. I guess when it comes to the advocacy, like we know, and I agree with you, like it is a union and they bargained and they would have only reached that bargain if it was what was the going rate in other policing services, and even looking at like the push for the provincial, it wouldn't be less than that, right? Like that's where you come to your bargaining agreement based on the other policing services. So I respect that. I just wonder, we need to be very clear with our advocacy that it's about the back payment. And we recognize as a municipality that this additional operating funds is on us. This is a, a traditional, what happens when costs, increase, as it does with everything we do in our budgets. So sorry, with that call with Avery, was that very specific that they wanted this advocacy is very specifically, we're not advocating against the agreement, we're advocating for the back pay?
For the back pay, which we personally did not sign the agreement, yes. I believe. Would you say the same?
I would concur.
I'm in support.
Yes, Mayor Zahara?
Yeah, and to that point, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The RCMP has often been seen the Walmart of policing because the members were so under the normal pay range for police officers. So there's going to be a narrative put out there by our provincial colleagues that the RCMP is overpaid or
More than
a
any
whole
other
bunch of
province.
stuff is going to go out there, which is not true. And that they're going to be able to do provincial police force cheaper, which is not going to be true. And this is one of those things, this is going to get very confusing for the public to follow all the different lines here. I think it's really important that we take a strong stance on the retroactive pay, as we were not at the table or part of those discussions, especially with a federal election coming up. And I think too, at the same time, still, as was mentioned, supporting the agreement in principle. They were working without any increases in pay for quite some time. And I think too, as we're going about this conversation, understanding that a $645,000 one-time hit to the town of Edson is massive. That's something we would never ever see for salary costs in any other situation. And it's not affordable. It's not like we're going to have a problem struggling to pay that. Just think about some of the smaller municipalities. So I am fully in support of lobbying efforts in that regard.
Yes, Councillor Shabat.
Through to the chair, just a clarification, agreeing with Ruben, I'm not against the agreement. I believe that they needed this, but I'm exactly the 640,000, the back pay is what I'd be lobbying for, because I believe the agreement, you're looking at the wages, and you're right, it's the province or whoever's pushing to get rid of the RCMP. I agree the RCMP is our best bang for our buck. They deserve the raise, but strictly going after the 645, not the agreement they're reached.
Yes.
I just want to say that I'm in full support of strong advocacy on the back pay issue.
All right, we all seem to be in agreement with that. We know our member of parliament, so poor him.
Told you we should have more.
Do you
snacks.
need any more information, or are you satisfied with this?
Councillor Wilkinson, so because council, this is committee, we'll bring this forward for ratification at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, I have no informational items, no sundry items. Questions from the media or public regarding items from this committee of the whole meeting. Do we have any, Charles? None? All right. Then I would entertain a motion to go into a closed meeting session.
Just,
Oh, sorry.
Avery doesn't have anything?
Oh,
Yes,
Adrian.
I have one if I could, if I may.
Oh, you certainly may. I didn't realize that you were on.
I'm just wondering with the RCMP back pay, how that's being worked out. Like, what about, is it surely on the number of members that were employed here? Or what about members that have transferred out or transferred to multiple municipalities? Is all of that factored in?
I maybe believe they didn't have a whole bunch of members here who had holidays owed to them, which we would have owed on that. So it's very complicated, I think. Have you got any clarification anymore, or?
Councillor, Deputy Mayor Wilkinson, my gosh. I would have to return your call tomorrow if that's all right, Ms. Tate, just to get clarification. I don't want to misspeak on this.
Okay.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions, Adrian?
No, I think that's it for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
May I possibly request a quick recess prior to moving into closed session?
Yes.
You may. Do we need a motion for that?
No.
No,
We'll
okay.
just take a
I'm
quick-
declaring a quick recess, 5 minutes. I'll entertain a motion to go into a closed session. Thank you, Mayor Zahara. All in favor? Passed. I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. Councillor Chouinard. All in agreement? Here, thank you for a lovely meeting, everyone. See you next week for our regular council meeting.